Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Melissa De Jesus is in the house.
Wow.
You need an official welcome for this.
Right? What's it been, 2 weeks?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I don't know, but I just know that when people write this, like, when is she going to be on the show, and those kind of things.
Right. The kids are officially, well, I know I shouldn't say officially settled in schoolwork, but they're doing their best today.
Yeah.
So we can do this.
This is true. So we're looking forward to today's question. We've been doing, when you and I are getting together right now, at least what we're doing is addressing some questions, using them as springboards. And then we'll consider maybe some other series that we're going to go into in the future. Yeah. But we've been getting a lot of questions. Many of them I've been addressing myself on some of these marathon broadcasts that I've been doing.
So good.
Oh, thanks.
Everybody needs to, I have a new mic, everybody, so I'm just trying to get adjusted. Am I okay here?
Fine here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those have been so good. So I just recommend everybody go to the Q&As because they're so good.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad.
Really, babe, I love the heart in what you're bringing people and teaching people, and I just highly recommend everybody check it out. It's great. And we're trying to timestamp. So if you have a specific question, please go to the Q&As because we're timestamping them out, and you can skim through and maybe go to a question that jumps out. I do think that people shouldn't skip that, but I understand why, because you want to have your own question answered, but there's so much rich things in what you have to say and speak into topics. So anyways, I recommend them.
I think if you are getting a lot out of our overall message, I think sitting through Q&As can be very, very helpful because you may not have the specific struggle that I'm addressing, but you can benefit from the heart of what I'm bringing out in it. Because I may be talking about somebody in their marriage, but I bring out the heart of an overcomer, or I may bring out the want to, or bring out what does it mean for you to want your healing and freedom more than anyone else, or to break out of codependency, or those kind of things. I think it's something I've benefited from when I tune into other people who address certain issues and subjects. It makes me a better person to hear, even though I'm not tied to the specific situation. I think many times people go, well, I don't really struggle with that. Why don't you set that aside for a second,
right,
and just listen? Because our struggles may manifest in all kinds of pathways, but we all have the same main core issues.
Right. Where people will just answer this question for me. It's no, it's deeper and more nuanced than that in what decision means. And so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So today what we're going to get into, Lord willing, Creek don't rise.
You know what? I need to make T-shirts for us.
That's good. That's good.
I know.
That's good. If you want a T-shirt,
keep on the lookout.
Let us know. Mark at markdejesus.com. And let us know. I would like a T-shirt that says Lord. It has to be Lord willing.
I know. We have to eat right. Right.
So I think, speaking of subjects everybody can relate to, this area of that we're going to get into today, I think everybody could benefit from some form and some fashion. It has to do with learning to feel safe in your thoughts when you're by yourself. That's kind of the best way I could summarize it. But I think everybody, to some degree, we find ourselves alone in many different ways. Maybe you have great relationships, but then you're dealing with being alone at the end of the day. Maybe you're in a season of your life where you're just overall feeling alone, lonely. Maybe there's aspects of your life where you can't seem to ever be by yourself because it's just a big struggle. So wherever you are in that, there's moments where we become alone in our thoughts and they become difficult. And they bring up a lot of things, maybe fear, anxiety, depression, maybe some intrusive thoughts, maybe dark thoughts, maybe a sense of dread or a sense of darkness. It reveals a number of things, but most of all, it reveals that we're struggling to dwell safely within ourselves and within our own thoughts. And Melissa and I, we want to be an encouragement to your journey as we're in our journey of discovering this and learning. And we pray that our discussion will be a blessing to you, to empower you so that your time alone can be more of a refuge, more of a time of refueling, more of a time of recalibrating versus a time that is more tormenting. And I would say in this topic, I relate big time to what it's like to have it be tormenting. And I also know what it's like for it to be so much more refreshing. So hopefully I can fill in some blanks of my journey. You can fill in some of yours, and
we'll certainly try.
We'll try to make some sense of this. So this is springboarded by a question that came in, and we'll put this up on the screen for those of you that are watching this in video. Those of you who are listening, don't even worry about it because you're going to hear everything that we place up on the screen. Question goes like this, and we'll kind of space it out a bit if that's all right with y'all. But it says, I really related to the person who asked a question about dissociation. And this goes back to previous Q&A episodes we did a while back. So if you're wondering what this person means by that. But zoning out and living in a fantasy world to avoiding dealing with their pain. This is certainly a chronic issue that many who are honest with themselves realizing, yeah, I am going into fantasy land and not dealing with life. And your answer, I realize that I too am doing this a lot. So much so that if I took it out of my day, I have no idea what to think about. This is not so much the case when I'm with other people. I can be present during those times, thankfully, but more so when I'm by myself, especially when I'm falling asleep at night, because I don't have anything to, quote, keep busy with then. Do we need to just pause right here and kind of navigate this a little bit? Because I think that up front, I would say that there is a chronic problem where many people are, they're in a daydreaming of whatever, of maybe a life that they would want or somewhere over the rainbow, or they're in some kind of like constantly using it as a way of disconnecting from the fact that they're in pain that needs to be addressed.
Right.
I think that many times our world of advertising and social media plays on that, right? You want the life of your dreams, and people present this amazing life that looks awesome, and then that it gives you video footage for your own fantasy escape, right? Of the life of your dreams that you would want.
Right.
How do we make sense of the struggle of that?
Well,
first of all,
I want to say to this person, we get it. I think a lot of people struggle with this.
For sure. Honest people.
Very right. The zoning out, living in a fantasy world. Yeah. This has been a huge battle of mine. Huge battle. And I think, we can kind of go at it piece by piece, because I think there's been different stages in how we've both tried to process this and tackle it and, fill in those times of where we're zoning out and where you're strategic and all of those things. But
it's okay to basic standpoint, it's okay to daydream. It's okay to have a sense of like dreaming about things. But I understand what the person is asking. It does seem like there is an escape going on. Like I think the healthy pathway for life is seeing reality for what it is, but seeing it through the context of healing grace, seeing it through compassion, not seeing things worse than they are, but being able to just see them. This is what I've been through. This is where I'm at, so that we take in what we need moving forward. And I think we live in a chronic culture of just escape.
All right, so let's talk about why we do this.
Well, I think that it starts with, the main premise it starts with is that we haven't been equipped on how to deal with what we've been through. And I think there's a lot of denial going on. Totally. There's a lot of denial to like not address what you've been through. Some obsess over it, certainly. That's not productive either. But it's like we haven't been equipped on how to take what we're going through into perspective so we can face it. Because those pain places are some of the richest places of life.
Right.
The losses, the grief. And people say, what are you talking about? They're excruciating. Right. Because we don't know how to look at stuff through compassion and grace. We're used to seeing pain and judging it. You see pain in other people, you judge it. You write a prescription for it. You tell them what you think they need or what they should have done. We don't know how to like land in it more graciously, more compassionately, more.
Right. You know what, to me, as you're talking, it's making me think of even like the term like emotional language and all of those things. And that's important in the connection of the grace aspect when you're looking over your life, because I would say a simple thing of even in relation to grace over it is you have a broken heart over a lot of things.
That's right.
And a lot of the times we don't even know. People say, well, that's just a simple term. No, it's actually not for a lot of people. The recognition of just saying that or even feeling what that is actually a really big deal to connect to.
Yeah. Yeah. We do this in a lot of different ways as I'm thinking through this more as we're talking. It's like how we zone out, how we drift away, and how much we're not actually in the moment. We're not in the present moment. We're disconnected somehow. We're daydreaming about tomorrow, right? Thinking about tomorrow. And usually it's in a worry, it's in a dread. Oh my goodness. And we scan things for all the things that are going wrong, right? Or we kind of get lost in a la world. And it's a disservice to your journey when it doesn't allow you to be rooted and grounded in where you're at. I think it's okay to like dream of what you hope the future to hold. That's a powerful force in your life. But I think it also needs to be grounded in day by day in the moment. I'm there. So I think this is what I would say to this so far. I think when you're alone at the end of the day and the creepy crawlies start to come in, it is a signal that there's a deeper need for you to compassionately face yourself and your life and your journey in a way that allows you to see. So like, see the pain you're going through, but look at it compassionately, look at it graciously, look at it kindly, as you would if somebody else was going through it, right? If somebody else was empty or lonely or this, what would you do? If you were connected to compassion, how would you talk to them? How would you address them? This is an invitation for you to do that for yourself, but we live in a culture that doesn't encourage that. It's just keep the busy, keep the going, and then you crash land at the end of the day. That was pretty much my life in a nutshell, was go, crash land, and oh my goodness, can I just crash into bed and sleep? Because I feel those thoughts coming, and I want to avoid them as much as possible.
So I would say this too, as you're talking, of where avoiding thoughts and avoiding things. So even in the aspect of like zoning out and then living in fantasy world to avoid dealing with pain. So a very big part, I'll speak transparently about my journey and where I'm learning to heal in all of these things and grow in them, of zoning out and going into like, what I wish my life had been kind of thing, is I had to come to terms with that most of my childhood and upbringing was very focused on how everyone else felt. So then I wasn't equipped in how to I wasn't asked, how are you feeling? A lot of it was like my parents going through turmoil, whatever, people around me. I was very focused on, I didn't know this, but I was trained up in to worry about everyone else. So then when I'm getting into adulthood and relationships and all kinds of things, it was my zoning out and fantasy world. And this is kind of funny, but I guess it's not, because I think a lot of people do this, but obsessively dreaming about if I was famous, a famous dancer, and what is all that? It's attention. Was me craving attention.
Right.
And someone noticing me. So when I lived in my fantasy world, people noticed that I danced.
Wow.
People noticed that right? So that's where my mind went. Well, in the past couple of years, too, it's been a big thing for me to recognize. Why do I do that? Well, because I've been always worried about everybody else. And inside, that's the cry for, look at me. So does somebody see me? And when that's not happening, then it's like depression. So I wanted to bring that up because I think that this is an important, and maybe that's too too deep to go into right now to bring that out. But I wanted to, this like fantasy kind of thinking in these things, I'm venturing this person was not really seen the way they needed to be seen.
Do you think that as we get older and you become more aware of heart issues and things and what you needed, you can tend to kind of go back over history, and that can increase some of the fantasy kind of escape, kind of daydreaming thoughts of you start to really recognize what you were lacking at certain stages of your life.
Right.
So then for many people too, it causes a lot of regret, a lot of sense of like, if I was there, I should have just started the business and quit fussing about all these things. I should have just, whatever. It kind of stirs up that like woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah. For me, it's military movies. I like military movies because I feel like I put myself in that movie and I see myself bad kind of chick,
Yeah, so like
which brings out like I never felt strength. I never felt powerful. I never felt empowered. And I love looking at military movies and then I put myself in them of, I should have done that. I could have done that.
Right. Yeah. Looking in that, like I should have, that's a great example. I should have just went into the military. Because you see the value of what's there, you see the confidence that they build in you, the team, the tribal connections, all that. And you look back and go, why not just, there's plenty of stages too where I look back and I go, man, if you take the confidence that I learned to develop, put that in that situation, boy, the whole thing would have been different.
My life would have been different.
Okay, so the thing about all that is, it's okay that stirs up. We don't want to go, we don't want to judge it. But it's actually very unkind.
Right. It's not accepting of where you are.
Okay.
So true.
Okay.
So then you go.
Yes. Hold.
Okay.
Hold,
go.
Because this is the hallmark of this. Oh, you've landed on it. The hallmark of the healing journey, and many people misunderstand this. A hallmark place of your healing process, my healing process, is actually learning to fully accept where we are for all that it is. And what we do is we engage unkind things, fantasize, dreaming, disconnecting, dissociation. And I know that dissociation is a whole topic that has a spectrum and it's psychological, terminology. I get that. It's just a disconnect from the here and now.
Right.
Of connecting to
the present.
Okay, my kids are going through some stuff. I've been divorced this many times, or I got fired, or I took the job and I didn't, and of just facing it in love, because what love does is accept.
Right.
Agape, invitation, come in, join, be here with us. God does that with us. Fully embracing you. We don't fully embrace ourselves. So there's like this disconnect to what God's bringing to us. I accept you where you are. Okay, God, thank you for that. But I got somewhere over the rainbow, right? And God's like, no, it's not in the rainbow's about me. Come here,
right?
And I think that the signal of what these things reveal in us, we're not accepting where we are. And acceptance doesn't mean, some people translate, well, are you meaning we should say sin's okay, or we should say that, very wrong decisions, that we're still not getting it.
Right.
It's you are not received in love because you made all the right decisions. You are not received in love because you got it right. In fact, the Bible proves that completely wrong, because the people in the scriptures were goofy, nutty.
Right.
They're all disqualified from many standards that people hold today, right? So going back to my point is what you're saying, these trails do not allow us to accept, because once you go, okay, this is where I'm at. It's all right. We got some healing to do. We got some steps we're going to take. See, that's the kind of conversation we need to start having with ourselves. Do you hear the language and even how I'm pausing?
Right.
Okay, this is where I'm at. This is all right.
Right. And most of the time I feel like that in conversations would kind of go like this, well, you need to take care of yourself. You need this, you need that. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? And I think we've tried to bring it down to a practical heart standpoint of, you've coined the term of like the everythings. There is a place, there's a launching pad of knowing you're dearly loved, accepting, having grace over your life. Like those things that are the foundational things that we really don't know how to do, that we should have been equipped and given as children, as literal children. So then as in adulthood, we can handle pain, we can handle grief, we can handle things that happen. We've not been given any of that. So we have to revisit those foundational things. Because like people can throw out the term self-care, throw out all these things.
Right.
They're like nebulous to me. It drives me crazy sometimes, even though they're important words.
Sure.
But it's like, give me A, B. I need steps. And I like those practical steps that we really try to bring people back to, of that. So you need to accept where you're at. Go ahead.
Could I add something to what you're saying though? Because what you're saying, I understand. But in my Q&A, one of the things I mentioned is sometimes we get so focused on the how. What we really need to get to is the value of more of the what, in the sense of like.
Yes, you did say that in your last Q&A.
So
it was very good.
And I hear what you're saying, and I think that we really try to do that. But giving the hows without establishing the what, like what is it? And the what is when I'm by myself, the value is I need to learn how to be more at peace with myself. And it is one of the most.
That's a how.
No, that's the how is.
I'm joking.
Right. You don't get me confused now.
Okay, now.
So the how is like, well, I need some more rest, or I need to go for those daily walks. Yeah. I need to journal. I could list out 100, how do I do this? But really starting with the
what?
What is it that I need? What is it that I'm valuing? And I think that the reason we don't know how to do things, I sometimes get frustrated too with the self-care, because it's like, well, what do you mean by that?
Right. Because I could go get my toes painted at the salon, and I'm in a worse spin out, zoning out, trying to go, I need to relax.
Yeah. So the driving, very, very well said. The driving motivator is really the key. And then you'll discover how that needs to happen. So people will say, how do I care for myself? Well, my first question is it important to you? Because if you connect to the importance of it, how that needs to happen will begin to appear.
Right.
And so, like some people say to me, I can't stand journaling. I'm not a journaler. And then don't journal. Right.
I'm not. You are, and I'm not.
Some people, the way that it goes up, and I'm not even really that, I'm not the journaling type of like, dear diary.
Right.
Today
no, but you're good
was an amazing day.
Right, yeah.
I'm more, because I have so many like thoughts that come to me that I'm like, oh, this would be very valuable. I'm constantly writing them down. But I think it's learning to get acquainted with yourself. And we've been avoiding ourselves for a long time.
Sure.
So people write to me and say, I've moved to a new location and I'm all alone and I'm 50 something years old, or my spouse has passed away and I'm by myself, and I'm profoundly aware of this deep sense of loneliness that I'm going through. Or you're single and you've gotten out of a marriage, or you've never been married, or you're in a marriage and you still feel alone, or you could have a great marriage and still feel alone. Don't think that your situation is the reason you're feeling this loneliness. It's a contributor.
Right.
Because I've met people
it's a branch.
With great social lives and they're desperately lonely. People who have all kinds of relationships, desperately empty, can't stand being by themselves. People who are married, single. So I found the demographic of it doesn't matter. It's a contributing factor.
Right. So you're right. So back to the what of even like a good question is, well, what do you want to replace that with? What does it look like for you to not zone out, I guess? What's the expectation in it?
Yeah.
To just be able to sit still. What is the expectation in when you're by yourself?
Right. That's a good way
and
of
you're
putting
not
it.
Zoning out.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So that the way that I answered that question is I want to learn how to be okay with me. I want to learn how to be more at ease with myself. And it was the most awkward thing I presented in my journey at first. Just looking in the mirror was like awful. Pass by the mirror in the mall and look at myself. I judge myself from head to toe. Many of you practice this. Go look in the mirror right now.
Right.
Don't use your selfie camera because that thing, removes blemishes. It's like it does all this stuff. Just look at a straight up mirror of yourself, right? Or do this with somebody or even with yourself. Like, what is a trait about you that you really think is wonderful?
Right.
And most you may have some narcissists that kind of go into
right.
into their pathways, right? But for the most part, a lot of people are like, I can say 100 things that need improvement, right? So what I did was it wasn't anything spectacular. I just said, okay, there's a lot of monsters that come up when I address this. I got some learning to do.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I'm gonna learn how to be cool with me.
Right.
We even had a conversation before the broadcast today. I'm even learning in doing videos, whether my solo ones or our conversations too. I've times in our history been an incredible, critic to myself, analyzing things I don't need to analyze, obsessing about things I don't need to obsess about. So in the practicing of this, I'm learning to be at ease and more loving and kind and more gracious to myself, because that's an amazing gift that I can give others.
That's so good.
So there's the practical that you can apply your daily, whether it's stillness, whether it's going for walks or whatever. Then there's the in the moment, like when I'm doing a video, like I just need to just do the video and not overanalyze it,
right?
Not spin in it, because then that's going to make my time alone a time of just critiquing. That's a lot of people land at the end of the day just critiquing themselves.
It's true.
So anyways, I went in a bunch of
I want to just say
directions,
this too, as you were talking, it made me think about this, because I know I've struggled with this in the past of like, I was always jealous of people that like, oh my gosh, I garden and it just brings me peace. And I'm like, I wish that. Like, but when I engaged that, there were some parts of me that I had to recognize that I was like, this isn't enough. I need to feel good. I need a hit. I need to feel like that.
Okay, this is a very, very important point.
Okay. Of being okay with that. That's enough to be at peace. Because we do live, we're in like the worst time of it right now of a hit, right? Of like the feel good hit. And like, even when you're looking at Instagram stuff of people, putting stuff, there's a hit to it of like, oh my gosh, they look like they're feeling that feeling and it's amazing. And I want to feel the feeling. And
I like the voice you're going into.
Gosh. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I expressing that? It's like an addict hit of like, can gardening, I'm using gardening as an example, that's enough. Because so we want the peace, right? But we want the hit to feel the peace, to feel this, to feel the endorphin rush. That it's like we really have to settle. Like, what's going to be enough too? Do you know what I'm saying?
Ooh. Let's just pause.
I can.
Let's just pause.
Okay.
And just take this in, because I don't care if anyone gets it or doesn't get it, because I got it,
Well, right,
but I know
it's
this
the question of like, because everyone wants peace, and it's like, well, but what's enough? What are you willing to accept? Do you know what I'm saying?
So
is it sitting on the back porch of your house looking at the birds? We all think those things are going to do it, but there's stuff down deep you got to heal first to get to that place where it's enough. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay.
Wanted
to put that out
We're
there.
searching for peace, but we're chasing an addiction.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we're actually not.
We're constantly disappointing ourselves.
We don't know what the what is.
Is right. Back to the what. Boo! I just got your what question. There we go.
So so it's the what kind of sets a little bit of the vision of reference of what are we moving towards?
Right.
And you laid it out beautifully. Gardening to someone with an addiction reference looks boring. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing you're talking about here, hon. Because you now practice gardening.
I do. Well, boo, it's been a long road, okay, to get to the point where, oh my gosh, I get it now. But just to give history, if you don't, if you're a new listener, and I grew up in a home with addiction and high level emotions. I lived super high or very sad. Super high, very sad. So I know the zone out very well, okay? It was a very good friend of mine. Unless I was in chaos, I was in the zone out. So for me to get any, balance and equilibrium, is that what I'm looking for, that word? In my brain, it's been a journey for me.
Yeah, me too.
Because I like the hit of feeling good. If it's a nice song and it makes me feel good, I like any little hit to get those endorphins going is oh, I feel good, then I must be at peace. It's
right.
No, that's still not.
Right.
So it's taken me a long time.
Yeah, and that's the journey that we're encouraging people on that's often not understood, is that you got to get out of when we finally enter that place of being by ourselves.
Yeah.
The addiction temptation comes in. The sugar, the sex, the rush.
Candy Crush.
The Candy Crush, right?
Rice, anything to distract my brain.
The M&Ms.
Ugh.
Let
me tell you, I've been off the M&Ms for a while, and I miss them. But it's true. So you got to look at even when you're alone, what are you going to? Whether it's a brain, a sugar. I mean, you think you're a movie star in your brain or whatever that is.
Right.
What's the hit?
Right. Very, very true. Are y'all catching this? Because this is what it reveals when we're by ourselves. All that stuff wants to come in. And this is why we're in pandemics of addiction problems.
Right.
Everywhere. It's addiction to work. Can't turn the work off. Why? Because we've entered a zone of addiction. So we don't know how to go at 4 o'clock or 5 or whatever to just go, okay, time to pause, to stop, and to now move to something else. So we just know how to pedal to the metal. Busy all day, crash land at night, and then we're like, God, deliver me from this addiction.
Right.
Right? And we're living a lifestyle that cultivates it. So what we're encouraging is when you recognize that, this is the time to lean into the loneliness, lean into it. And what do I mean by the leaning into? What I mean by it is stop trying to fight it off and just recognize, okay, it's all right. It's all right that this is happening. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean something terrible about me. This is a new opportunity to learn what love is, to face myself. This is something I share with people. To face myself in compassion, not face myself in, having some kind of screaming intervention with yourself. Because we all know that doesn't produce change. It might produce maybe a little bit of sobriety, but not a whole lot. It's more about, this is my time and season to lean into this, to get out of addiction patterns, to get out of, okay, when I'm alone, I feel depressed. You may have had this depression for a long time, but you functionally lived in a way that never made room for it. I see this a lot with anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, Mark, I'm having anxiety. I'm having panic attacks. And it's, as you lay out the story, these factors have been there for quite some time. It just never got addressed until it was at DEFCON levels, which is typically what happens to us. We don't deal with things until we're ready, and we're usually never ready until things hit a really
bad, right? Yeah.
I
think
low.
Too, for me in my journey, I like to use the emotional language and understanding. I think for me to take and stop a lot of the self-beating, it was very important for me to understand why I do a lot of the things that I do. In even the simple terminology of, Missy, you had a broken heart.
That's right.
You weren't equipped in these things. I think there are those things that we have to face and look at. And when you say lean into, there are those things that really do help in understanding.
Right.
All right. This is it, and it's not a blame game on parents.
Right.
It's not a blame game. It's a recognition of they did the best they could or whatever. Okay, but they didn't have it to give to me. I was just I had a great conversation with my mom the other day about, and it's been a long road of us getting to have conversations and look at things because it's hard as a parent. When you become a parent, you recognize, oh, it's excruciating to realize what you've done wrong.
Right.
And she even said to me, you know what? I did good in this time. I didn't equip you the way I would have wanted to when I look at things. And so that helped me. It helped me to hear her even say that. But I had already kind of started my journey on that. And I encourage people to really dig a little bit deeper on understanding too, like stop beating yourselves up. Okay. You're a mixture of everything you grew up in, your environment. It's really helpful to understand what that is in your life.
Yep.
If you had a narcissistic mother, you had an abusive father, you need to understand those things because a lot of us that grew up in those atmospheres, we are the worst self-critics. We beat ourselves up
For sure.
so badly. It's all your fault. You didn't make the right choices. I didn't.
Yeah.
And it's very important to look at it graciously and say, okay, all right. This is what I was given. This is what I wasn't given. And this is where I'm at. I think that does help.
Yeah. Another how I could add to it in that is just withhold judgment.
Right. Because we love to beat ourselves up.
Yeah. And which then causes us to quickly judge others.
Right.
It's like withhold the judgment. Look at it compassionately. Look at where you are without creating some kind of judgment of this is what you deserve. This is what you should have done. This is if you had only done this, because all that opens up for the accuser. And God is not an accuser. So he's not in any of that. He's redemptive. He's in the now. God's in the now. He's in right here. Today is the day. This is the moment, right? And so I want to be fully present in the moment, taking in where I've been, not staring at my rearview mirror all day, but it's a part of my journey.
The acknowledgement, correct. Because all that stuff got you to where you are today.
Right. But when you look at it compassionately, you withhold judgment, you're kinder, then you discover the things you need to discover. They become like light bulbs. It's the best way I can explain it. It's like you have these moments where you're like, oh my, wow, I really never had that. You'll start to awaken over time to what you need. So I think these dry places, these dark places can become some of the greatest places of breakthrough. And what was written here was the bookends of the day. The start of the day and the end of the day. This is where it creeps up the most.
Big time.
You just start to wake up and before you know what day it is.
Right. The creepy critters are on you.
Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Woo. Okay. That's when it happens. In fact, let's go back to the question a little bit. There's a second part here. Yeah, going to sleep. Yeah, this is where it is. Going to sleep and waking up both seem like really vulnerable times of day for unhealthy thoughts. I would agree. That's where the stuff happens the most. So whatever the theme is that arises up, fear, darkness, doom, gloom, it gives you, if you look at it compassionately, it gives you clues of where discipleship needs to happen. The learning needs to happen. And I said, I had terrible going to bed, terrible waking up, worst times of the day. It caused me to realize, okay, all hands on deck to make those more fruitful. Let me observe my patterns, not judging myself. If I was a better Christian, maybe I would pray more. Maybe I should just, stop. Look at it compassionately. What's going on big picture that makes going to sleep at night difficult? What's going on big picture that's taking a toll? What can we learn and begin practicing? And it's like, okay, for many, they realize I got to put my phone away at a certain time. I got to, what would be really, really loving towards myself is really just having where I close out the day. And here's some things I find are very nurturing, reading or those kind of things. That gives direction to my thoughts. I remember for seasons, waking up was really difficult. So I said, you know what? I'm going to set in autopilot some things that are going to happen. The moment I wake up, here's my shoes, here's my earbuds. I'm going to go for a walk and I have something I'm playing to help jumpstart my day because I don't know how to start my day. So I'm going to put something in my ears of somebody who can speak, that I'm listening to, that will help direct and guide my thoughts. I'm going for a walk because it's good for endorphins, just get me to a better place as I'm learning. That's like an example. But it was like discovering, how do I set up my day as a loving gesture to making those alone times more fruitful?
The word nurture, I feel like we need to sit on that word for a second and talk about it, because that is a huge component here. I feel like for those of us that, we zone out and what that looks like in our life, because that's a big aspect that you and I have had to heal in. And that's important for you, accessing nurture in a self-care way, going for a walk, spending that time, listening to something, whatever, doing the things that there is a part of your body receiving the effects of nurture, right?
That's right.
So you're not a kid anymore. So your mom, well, I guess you can as an adult be loving and kind, but usually that ship has sailed, right? If you're an adult, you have to find things that you can access that are nurturing for you. I used to work with this lady years ago. It's the first moment I started to realize what someone nurturing and loving felt like, because she was a lot older. She could have been my grandmother, and she was retired, but working part-time. And every time she came to talk to me, she had such a kind voice, and she would just gently put her hand on me and talk to me. And I could literally feel it in my entire body, to the point where I was obsessively craving being around her. But she would calm me so much.
I'm sinking in my chair right now.
It's kind of like when we listen to Bob Ross, right? Bob Ross.
People like the Bob Ross from my Q&A.
I love when you're just put the rock wherever you want to put it.
It's one of my favorite things that he says.
Right?
He says, we're gonna paint a rock here. Where do you put that rock? And it's your rock. Put it wherever you want to put it. That's your rock.
You want these trees?
The Bob Ross approach is a good example of what we're trying to lead you into.
Right.
Because you need that even when you read the scriptures. Like when you read Psalm 23, I feel like the way most Christians read Psalm 23 in their heads, they're yelling it. The Lord is my shepherd.
Right.
I shall not want. He leads me beside the... No.
It's talking like Bob Ross.
It's Bob Ross.
It's Bob Ross, baby.
He leads me beside the still waters. What waters? Whatever waters you're going to go to. He restores.
But it's true. We really that's a huge how that I would insert in this, is what nurture your body is going to respond to, right? Because it's all encompassing when we're trying to heal in this.
This is real world. This is real world because this is a thing I'm in practice of. This is not past tense. This is
right.
When I have just the other day, I had a very emotional, maxed out day. Mm-hmm. And I didn't overschedule. I didn't overpressure. It's just stuff happens you don't expect. And I felt at the end of the day, just this I'm tapped. Mm-hmm. But I at least have learned over the years what to do in those moments to go, okay,
right.
I got to stop and pause for a minute. It's no judgment. And then I tune into what do I need? And sometimes it's simple as, all right, I'm just going to go for a walk for a minute. And I'm gracious to myself. And then I just welcome that kind inner dialogue. And I have a conversation with myself. I begin to just bring everything slowly down. It doesn't happen quickly, but I can see a shift where I'm like, all right, I feel myself coming more into rest. And you know what? Taking a break, here's some things. I'm going to get into enjoyment. I start tuning into what I need versus
Right.
drowning, which I spent years and years just drowning and catastrophizing, just spinning, and I'm never going to get well. I'm never going to get free. And all that is just self-hate, 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 self-hate. You lousy Christian. What's the matter with you? Your life stinks. It's going nowhere.
Right.
It's like I can't do that. I'm not going to feed the hate monster on myself anymore.
You know what, too? I feel like God gives you little gifts along the way that I may not have paid attention to in prior years. Like I was even listening to something the other day, and this person was telling their story. And they had a great way they were talking too. They just had a kind and loving way. They had a horrific story that if I was that person going through it, it would have taken me out. But they talked about forgiveness and not living in it. And it was a blessing to me, and how I'm even processing myself and my own journey of things that you and I have been through with, exterior things that we feel like, can something else go wrong? You know what? Other people are going through stuff too. And it just helped me to hear this person talk through it in a loving and kind and forgiving way. And I think, as I've been growing in this and trying not to zone out and looking inward, it's given me those little gifts. God's giving me these little gifts along the way that, are you pulling up something, babe?
I was just thinking of a scripture just to share, because there's so much that I think in relationship we need to give this to each other too as we're talking to each other.
So true.
Because there's a passage in Ephesians 4 that says Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification. And so words that are corrupt, what do? They tear down. And most of us, when we're by ourselves, we're tearing ourselves down. And what we need is edification. And God intended for each of us to give that to each other, edify, right? That it may impart what? Impart grace. That when you're around each other, you actually add empowerment, because grace is God's power working in and through our hearts, right? It's his work. It's what he's done working in and through us. So when I'm with you, I want to impart that, right? And I want to give that to myself. Now, I'm going to just jump over to verse 31. Did you say?
I was just going to say, go back one further of let him who stole steal no longer, because really that's steal, even if you look at it from stealing peace. So I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll just read the whole thing, because he says in verse 27, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give what he has need. So he's getting practical in all areas. Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to hearers. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Many people spin out in verse 30. I'm not going to, that's not what this point is. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ Jesus forgave you. So my point being, what came to my mind is all that was listed here was giving out to others in recognition of what God has given to us. So in these times by yourself, it's an opportunity to learn at a deeper level. What does it mean for me to say yes with the kind, tender heart? See, we think of this, be kind, tender heart. Okay, I got to go be kind, tender hearted. Wait, forgiving even as God in Christ forgave you. All of this is coming from heaven. So what does it look like for me to actually receive that? That when I'm by myself right now, God is forgiving towards me. He's tender-hearted towards me. He's kind. He's not malicious. He's not evil speaking. He's not creating clamor. He's not angry. He's not having wrath. He's not having bitterness. I keep going up the list, right? I'm receiving that from him, so that this becomes more of an oasis for you rather than a place of torment. But it's going to be a journey. This is not going to happen in a day, in a week.
Right.
It's
you
going
have to discover what works. Maybe
Absolutely.
Bob Ross works one day and he doesn't work the next, and you kind of go, all right, I'm figuring this out of what my my brain, my heart, my body, everything needs to come to peace and be loving and kind to yourself.
That's right. That's right. I like that tender-hearted.
I know. It's
the tender-hearted word.
Makes me want to talk soft like Bob Ross. Tender-hearted.
Compassionate. Tender-hearted. That's interesting. You know, like how can you be tender-hearted? We look at so much in Christianity of just do it, just be it, right? But it's like, it's more about cultivating it inside so that what flows out of you is what you're cultivating. So right now, where you're at, what does it look like? Right? What does it look like to just be tender-hearted towards yourself? Right. As a nurse would be towards someone who's coming into the emergency room. You know, how would you see yourself when compassion surrounds it?
Right. And if you're in a moment where you go, oh my gosh, because I was joking with you the other day. I zoned out for like 20 minutes. Forget what I was even zoning out about. And I went, oh no, what did I just... And I'm not beating myself up anymore. I'm like, okay, what was I zoning out about? What do I need right now?
That's it.
What do I need right now? And so that's the other piece is like, so even if you're still zoning out, because it's not click, I'm good, I get it, I'm going to stop doing it. And whatever you're zoning out about, if you can kind of tune into that, look at it a little bit deeper. All right, God, first off, I receive your love right now over this situation. I'm not going to beat myself up.
Right.
What do we need to fill that?
That's right. It's good stuff. I love it.
You know what I mean?
If this resource is a blessing to your life, would you consider supporting these broadcasts? That'd be a real blessing to us. But we pray that as we address this question and went into it in a further way, I think did we go to the whole question? Yeah, going to sleep. I
think we did. Yes.
Yeah, and then it ended with I need to grow in God's love for me. And I feel like I need to come up with some really specific good things to consider that don't involve anxiety or living in a fantasy world. If you ever wanted to say more about this, I'm sure a lot more people are in the same boat. So I hope we helped address this question in a fruitful way and it'd be a blessing to your life. There's many resources that you can take advantage of. One I would recommend as a takeaway from today is certainly God loves me and I love myself. And that is a very core resource of how I began to see myself in times of loneliness, in seasons of being alone in my thoughts, and it wasn't good. And I wanted to move into a more compassionate way. So we pray that's a blessing to your life and to your journey. We appreciate all the support, and we look forward to future episodes.
Thank you, everyone.
God bless you. We'll see you next time.